Now that we've looked at how energy and mass move into an ecosystem, let's look at how they move through an ecosystem with productivity and trophic levels. Be able to define primary producer, primary consumer, secondary and tertiary consumer, give examples of organisms at each trophic level, diagram how energy and matter flow through an ecosystem, drawing a food pyramid, compare trophic efficiency to production efficiency, defining both trophic efficiency using an equation and production efficiency using an equation. We're going to draw our ecosystem in class. We talked in the last lecture about gross primary production and net primary production, the total amount of light energy converted into chemical energy, and how much chemical energy is available to the next trophic level, which is always less than GPP. Some energy is not available because of plants' metabolism, plant losses heat, plant losses waste, and we're going to look at this productivity as measured in biomass. So for all of these equations, we are using biomass as our metric. First off is production efficiency. This is what occurs within a trophic level if you're taking an organism and seeing how much energy is assimilated and becomes new biomass being available to the next trophic level. So that is, remember, measured as biomass. The production efficiency is equal to the net productivity divided by assimilation. So how much does an organism eat is assimilation. How much does an organism convert into its own biomass is net productivity. And you can see that there is some variation between different organisms. In a caterpillar, you can see that it eats about 200 joules worth of energy. About 100 joules is going to be lost as feces. 67 joules is going to be lost as cellular respiration. And 33 joules is going to be incorporated into growth. So that is about a 16.5% growth. So, or 18% as shown in this other figure here. But look at how a caterpillar compares to a squirrel. Most of a squirrel's energy intake is going to be utilized in metabolism because they're endothermic vertebrates. Endothermy and ectothermy really start to matter here when it comes to how much energy is going to be incorporated into production. Trophic level efficiency is the basic idea that we can take everything in a trophic level and put it on a scale and then see how much it weighs. Obviously, this is more theoretic than possible because one does not simply grab all the herbivores and put them on a scale. Trophic level efficiency is the amount of energy transferred. And we're going to take the net productivity at a trophic level and divide it by the net productivity at the trophic level just under that. So for something like a primary consumer eats primary producers. So zebras eat grasses and other plants. And the trophic efficiency would be the biomass of all zebras, wildebeests, grasshoppers, and anything else that eats grass and other plants, divided by the total biomass of all grass and other plants. The total biomass of all carnivores that feed on these primary consumers, that's right, we call them the secondary consumers if they're feeding on the primary consumers, will show us the trophic efficiency of the next level. And we're going to see that trophic efficiency is way less than production efficiency because as a net whole, you have a whole bunch of trophic interactions. And this is going to lead to these food pyramids. Trophic efficiency is, on average, 10% for each trophic level. It's called the rule of 10%. It's often wrong, but we're just taking it as a general guideline. Why is it so low? Well, mostly because you cannot digest the entire organism. A lot of it's going to be given off as feces. There's also a lot lost in metabolism, used for the own maintenance. So all the biomass of one trophic level will not always be consumed by the next trophic level. Mice don't necessarily eat all the parts of a grasshopper, for example. And this loss of 90% of energy at every trophic transfer is going to lead to shorter food webs of about 4 to 5 levels max. So the number of individuals will decrease at each trophic level, leading what's called a biomass pyramid. That's the rate of energy production kind of going down every time. You can see how primary producers, i.e. those that eat sunlight, are going to have about 809 grams per meter squared of dry mass in this ecosystem. Primary consumers, only 37 grams per meter squared. Secondary, 11 grams per meter squared. And tertiary, 1.5 grams per meter squared. There's very few tertiary consumers in this food pyramid here. And the structure of the community is going to vary based on the efficiency of energy transfer and how much food is actually available to each one of these. This is an experiment done in these little holes in trees where water is going to accumulate. Leaves will fall into those holes and will gradually degrade or be eaten by various insects in there. So you can see how many trophic links there are, basically how many times you are going to have an insect, eating an insect, eating an insect, and eventually being eaten by a frog. And if you have a low amount of leaf matter falling into this hole, then you're going to get a low number of trophic links, maybe just one or maybe one or two. If you have a medium amount, you're going to have a higher number of trophic links, and a higher amount is going to lead to, of course, higher links. What this means is the more energy available in primary production, or in this case, detritus falling from primary production, the more trophic links can occur, and you're already thinking about where the GPP is the highest, is probably going to be where NPP is the highest, and therefore trophic levels are the highest, and you are correct. So these little buckets of soup you find in the wilderness, these are good examples of how fast you can get trophic levels based on how much you're going to have in primary production. This leads us to think about diet and sustainability. So eating plants is, of course, obviously the best way to get biomass. You're going to have the most mass available if you take yourself down a trophic level. So shout out to all the vegans watching this. You're doing it right. And next we're going to be looking, though, at things like people who eat beef. Well, a large amount of beef takes a large water footprint and a large amount of land use area because cattle are not very efficient when it comes to transferring food in their form of plants into edible biomass. Pigs are only a little more efficient, and so are chickens. They're not very efficient creatures when it comes to turning their food into your food. What's very efficient? Arthropods. Yep, those ectothermic invertebrates are highly efficient. They have a high production efficiency. So if you want the best bang for your buck and you want to live high on the trophic transfer chain, you should be eating arthropods. And no, I'm not part of the global conspiracy telling people to eat bugs. I'm just showing you some basic ecosystem transfers.